the night the bells fell silent. Once upon a time, long ago in the 14th century, the world was different. There were no airplanes, no cars, and no cell phones, only bustling villages filled with cobblestone streets, horses clopping through markets, and bells ringing from tall church towers. In a small town in Europe lived a little girl named Elena, who loved to chase butterflies through the fields and listen to her father tell stories about distant lands. Her favorite sound in the world was the church bell that rang every morning, calling people to greet a new day. But one year, something strange began to happen. The bell that had always rung so joyfully started to toll not for joy, but for sorrow. People whispered of a dark sickness traveling across the land. They called it the Black Death. It began far away, in places Elena had never heard of, traveling along trade routes where merchants carried silk and spices. But the sickness hitched a ride, too, hidden on tiny fleas that lived on rats aboard ships. When those ships reached Europe's shores, the sickness began to spread like a shadow, touching one town after another. Soon, even Elena's little village wasn't safe. Her father told her to stay inside, and the market grew quiet. The baker stopped baking, and the laughter of children faded from the fields. People began wearing herbs around their necks, hoping the sweet smell would keep the sickness away. Elena didn't understand what was happening, but she noticed something important. Kindness still glowed even in the darkest days. When her neighbor grew weak, Elena's mother left warm bread by their door. When the doctor came through the village, brave and tired, people offered him water and thanks. And when the church bell tolled again, Elena whispered a prayer for those who had fallen ill. Weeks turned into months. The sickness came and went, like a storm that refused to leave. But one spring morning, Elena woke to a sound she hadn't heard in a long time, birds singing outside her window. The air smelled fresh again. Her father stepped outside, looked at the sky, and said softly, "The plague has passed." Slowly, life returned. The market reopened, laughter echoed in the streets, and the church bell once again rang with joy. People had changed. They were gentler, more grateful, and more aware of how precious each day could be. Elena grew up to tell her children and grandchildren about those dark days when the world grew quiet, and how hope, even when hidden beneath fear, never truly disappeared. And from that time on, whenever she heard a bell ring, she smiled and remembered the sound of courage that had carried her village through the silence.